Here we go. Good morning, Rabbi Sai. How's everybody doing? It's a wonderful day here in Eretz Yisrael. Lili Nishmas Imi Rusbas Mordechai. We have three sponsors today. By Mark Struhl for Refuah Shlema for his wife Yal Simcha Bas Basha Leah, who's having surgery this morning, and by John Badner, who I miss dearly, my basketball chaver. Refuah Shlema Micha Sara Bas Rina Dvair. I mean, could you imagine? We haven't played sports in, I don't know, what is it? Since Shabbos Daf Yomi Aleph. It's a long time. We're all out of shape. It's Noam, you don't care. You're like all excited. Yeah, good for you guys. Noam used to play with us until he injured himself. Keith Reich, listen to this, Rabbi Isai. We have people that mamish listen. They take things seriously here. In honor of the election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and hope for the smooth transition and peaceful transition of power. I don't think Keith is in real estate. You could tell. But I asked for it. I said, Rabbi Isai, sponsor for Joe Biden. So here you go. Rabbi Isai, the Siyum coming up Sunday, November 22nd, less than 2 weeks from now. We're doing the same format as last time. Get together with your buddies. You know who they are. We're not going to make all these lists like we did last time. It was a big, big hassle. But if you don't know who your buddies are, you're new to this, and you don't know who's in your neighborhood and where the Siyum is, get in touch with Yoshua. He'll get you in touch with your local Siyum. So once again, you can be mishtatev in a local Siyum. You can do your own thing at home by yourself. You could go to Belarus. There was 70 people last time. You go to the kever of the Rebbe. You could go to Panovich. You go to the Kaisel. We had somebody at Kever Rachel. The Siyum all over the place. You'll find your place, trust me. And the final day for the Eruv video is tomorrow. So if you are interested in doing a local Eruv tour and show us your community and your Eruv, and perhaps there's some chidushim that we can learn on the way, so let us know by tomorrow. Yeshar Koyach. Real quickly, yesterday I had tremendous chizuk. I think a lot of you as well. We were on Zoom, and in the middle of Shir, I realized that Stephen Sokolow is watching the Shir. And after Shir, he told me something incredible. It's very scary, actually. He works in a nursing home, and he lost patients just now. But not only that, he lost 2 staff members, young ones, 2 40-year-olds in the last few weeks. And he himself is very sick. He's in the hospital, so we got to wake up a little bit. We're taking it easy. That was by Pesach time. 2 young people that he knows from his facility, including himself, who's sick now. He's already out of it, I hope. And what's very interesting, once they couldn't get him a positive test on COVID. The doctors were convinced he had COVID, but they couldn't get the positive, and therefore they couldn't give him the medication, what is it called? Remdesivir, whatever it's called. Once they gave it to him, within an hour, he said it was Mechai Nefashos. Anyways, here's our tremendous chaver, Stephen, in the hospital, with a half a smirk. He's looking a little disheveled, but Baruch Hashem, he's able to watch the shir. Also, we had tremendous chizuk yesterday. Hillel Kamiansky, on his flight to the States, I believe, watching the shir. So chizuk all around. Real quickly, Rabbi Yisrael, you're probably wondering, where's our tremendous chaver, Lauren Spiegelman? Where is he? Nobody's seen him in I don't know how long. I know you haven't seen or heard from me in a long time. Reb Noam checked in with me recently. I told him, I want you to know I'm still in the shir, but over Yantiv I fell a bit behind. Many people fell behind on Yantiv. I know your sheet is to jump right in wherever the daf is holding and make up the missing dafim another time, but I really feel, I'm a chulak on you. I really feel, it's your choice, but I really feel that the continuity, important for understanding, missing dafim later when I'm not in the sugi anymore, will be too hard. He wants to have, I hear what he's saying. So after Sukkot, I picked it up again and YouTube from where I left off. So I'm trailing behind a little, but it's all about the Yomi. From today, I started at 6:30 a.m. so I can do 2 dapim a day until I close the gap and catch up. So Mirz Hashem, I'll be back on Zoom, or better yet, back with everyone in MDY in time to finish Eruvin with you and the Chevra. So we're looking forward. And then he says, meantime, I'm glad that you're in Eretz Yisrael. Thank you for the 8-minute daf and the 600 charts in Eruvin. So in other words, he did watch yesterday's daf. I'm not exactly sure. And then he says, I don't even have this printed, but he said that if I do say this in Shir, he probably won't hear it for a few days. So I don't know, he saw yesterday's Shir, okay, whatever it is. So we're happy to hear. I was thinking about it. It's exciting when a new person joins the Shir, but the hurt I was thinking, like, where did this guy go? This guy, Mamish feels, I feel bad. Like, what happened to that guy? Was the shir that bad that he? So remember, when you decide to leave the shir for a little bit, you should know you're hurting me personally. Amalei Ravina Ravashi, we're holding today's Daf Beis. Last words on Daf Aleph Amud Beis. Mi Omar Rabbi Yochanan Hachi. So we're talking about the Shita of Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon says that all outdoor areas, Chotzer, Gag, Karfaf, they're all considered one category, and I could carry from one to the other. And in addition to that, Rabbi Yochanan and Shmooze said yesterday that it's only in a situation where there's no Eruv. Mamish, counterintuitive, no Eruv. If there's no Eruv, there's no concern that I might take something out of my house and bring it to another Chotzer. But if there's an Eruv, very problematic. Ask the Gemara, Ravina to Ravashi. Who's Ravina and Ravashi? The authors of Shas. Both of them. They wrote the Gemara. So they said to each other, Ravina tells Ravashi, did Rabbi Yochanan really say that looks like Rabbi Shimon? Now, we have a contradiction. If I could prove to you in a Mishnah, if the Mishnah says not like Rabbi Shimon, and the Mishnah is an anonymous Mishnah, then we have a contradiction, because Rabbi Yochanan always paskins like an anonymous Mishnah. And the Mishnah seems like not like Reb Shimon, and that would be a contradiction to Rabbi Yochanan, who just said the halacha is like Reb Shimon. What's anonymous Mishnah? We're very familiar. First of all, you have to know that Rabbi Yochanan paskin halacha is Stam Mishnah. Maybe there are others who don't hold like the Stam Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan is very, and we say it all the time. Rabbi Yochanan paskin like Stam Mishnah, anonymous Mishnah. Usnan, and we learned in the Mishnah in this Masechta, Kaisel shebein shtei chatzeres gavay asar. I'll remind you. You have a wall in between two chatzeros, and there's fruit on top. This is a solid wall. This is 4 tfachim wide. And therefore, it separates the two chatzeros. I cannot carry from one to the other down Neruv. If there's fruit on top, what's the halacha? Ma'arvin shnayim ve'im ma'arvin mechad. You need to do separate Eruvin. You can't say that these two chatzeros are one. There's a solid wall between them. There's a division. And what if this fruit on top? Then we went back then to the Yoni picture, even though it's not color, but it's beautiful. It's two geshmaka kids eating fruit on top of the wall. And that's mamish what it says here. Oilin, you see, he even made a little brick here. They get up onto the wall and eat on the wall, and that's where they eat. They're literally eating over the wall, and they can't bring the fruit to them. Now, what would Reb Shimon say in this case? This wall is a reshus b'fnei atzma. It's an outdoor area. You can carry from any outdoor area to an outdoor area. What's the problem? You go from a chatzah to a wall, to gag, to karfaf. So according to Reb Shimon, you should be able to take the fruit off the wall and come down here, eat nicely. What do you have to eat like a I don't know, my grandmother used to tell me, you can't, if you eat standing up, your feet will get big. I don't know what she told me. It's a problem to eat when you stand up. It's a problem. So this is a very big problem for Rabbi Yochanan. So what's Rabbi Yochanan going to do? He's going to have to wiggle his way out of this a little bit. He's going to have to explain the Mishnah to fit in with Rabbi Shimon. Otherwise, he has a problem. But he thought about this. When he passed like Rabbi Shimon, he knew about it. So what did he say? It doesn't mean that you cannot take the fruit off the wall like in this picture. Of course you can take the fruit off the wall. We pass like Rabbi Shimon, you can take a fruit from the wall to the chutzner, to the karfaf, to the gag. I can take it on the roof if I want. What it means to say, don't take it into the house. We spoke about it yesterday a lot. You can't take, we just said it this morning when we started, you can't take something from your house into a chutzner, into another chutzner. So you can't go in reverse also. You can't go from the wall to the house. You can't go from the house to the wall. So that's the concern. Be careful. You're going to take your fruit off the wall and eat it. Don't bring it indoors. Why? And it's a big, you have to warn people. What you're allowed to do is you're allowed to take it from outside areas. So you go from a karfaf to gag to chutzner, gag, karfaf, and go all the way to the mikvah, do whatever you want. But don't bring it indoors. And don't bring it from indoors, outdoors. That's already a different area. That's the chiddush. Lamata labata. Oh, ask the Gemara, Vatani Rebbe Chia. Now who's Rebbe Chia? Rebbe Chia is a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan, And Reb Chia, Reb Oishia are known to have the brises, the perfect brises. Their brises, so anything that Rebbe didn't bring in the Mishnah, Reb Chia would bring in a brisa. He added a little bit. So if Reb Chia says something, it carries a lot of weight. It's not just a brisa from another Tana or whatever. It's Reb Chia. Reb Chia and Reb Oishia. Reb Chia says mefurish in the brisa, standing right there, don't move. He says specifically, don't take it off the wall. There's no mention in Reb Chia's brisa taking it indoors. The concern is you're going to take it off a wall. Eat it on the wall like Yoni's picture. Just lean over and eat right there. Amalei, a very interesting lashon. V'chi Rebbe lo yishna. From the Mishnah, you didn't see this. Rebbe, the author of the Mishnah, didn't write it in the Mishnah. Says, shlo yiridu lamata. Shelo yiridu lamata, it says. Don't take it down. Where did Reb Chia get it to write in his brisa? Reb Chia Menayloi. Who told him that that's what Rebbe meant? So we're sticking to it. Rebbe Yochanan is sticking to his pshat in the Mishnah. Lamata means to take it off the wall, bring it indoors, into the house. Reb Chia in his brisa. Who told Reb Chia to write it? Itmar. So now we have a very interesting shaila. We know that you're not permitted to go from a chotzer that has an eruv, according to Rabbi Yochanan, to a chotzer that doesn't have. In other words, we're concerned that if you have an eruv, you might take things out of your house and bring them into the chotzer, and from there you'll move on to another chotzer, if you have an eruv. What about the reverse? What about bringing something from a place that doesn't have an eruv into your house that has an eruv? Is that a problem? So that's what we're going to be discussing here in a roundabout way. Itmar, shtei chatzeros v'churva achas b'neim. So you have two chatzeros on both sides, and there's ruins in the center. It doesn't matter who owns it; they both own it together. Somebody else owns it. A churva. Achas irva of achas lo irva. Here's an X. This guy did not make an eruv. Check. This guy made an eruv. Now, with the counterintuitive thing that we learned yesterday, who gets to carry where? The guy that did not make an eruv, according to Rav, he has the upper hand because there's less chashash that he's going to take stuff out of his house and bring it to another chatzar. He's not carrying. He knows he can't carry. So Memela, says the Gemara, Omer Rav Huna, which Rashi points out right away, he was a Talmud Muvak of Rav. So based on Rav, I give the ability to carry within this churva to the X, to the guy that didn't make an eruv. This guy, since he has a lot of stuff going on here, look, he has a lot of he has laundry hanging here, all different stuff, basketballs, bats, all things in his chutzner, bikes. Since he made an eruv, it's very possible that he might take something and bring it outside to a place that doesn't belong to him, into the churva. Okay, so that's the same concern that Rav said. V'chia barav Omar. Now, the son of Rav, this is the Talmud, Rav Huna. Chia, the son of Rav, we had in this Masechta, right? Rav Yehuda was teaching Chia, the son of Rav, and Rav overheard, the son of Rav. He says in the name of his father, this is what my father said. Af l'she'irva, not true. Both of these guys are equal. That's all Rav said. Af l'she'irva. There's no difference between the red X and the green check. It can mean two things. It can mean they're both aser, neither of them could carry here, or it can mean they're both mutter. Which one is it? First pshat in the Gemara is v'shtei and asuros. That's an addition that was added by the son, by Chia. My father said that there's no difference between the house, the chutzner that has an eruv, and the chutzner that doesn't have an eruv, and therefore I'm telling you, they're both aser. Why? What's the svara? They're both aser. Vim toimer shtei mutaros. Maybe you'll say what my father meant is both mutter. What's the logic in that? Interesting lashon. Now it's clear, says Chia, that my father said. Here, if we take the same picture, my father said that it's usher to go in this direction from the one that has a check. It's usher to carry over here. So what are you going to tell me? That it's mutter to carry over? If we already know that it's usher in one direction and they're both equal, so they're both usher. You can't take this away. Everybody agrees that Rav said that you cannot carry from a house or chutzner that does have an eruv. You can't. So if you can't, and Rav said they're both equal, so they're both usher. Says the Gemara, no. Perhaps even in this case, Rav agrees that this is not true, that it's mutter to go in this direction. Why? What's the svara? Over here in a typical situation where people put their bikes outside and there's a concern, you're going to carry from here to there, great. But when we're looking at the ruins, since nobody leaves anything over here, it's dangerous to leave your bike over here, it's going to get stolen. The whole svara of Rav is that I'm concerned I'm going to carry from one place to the other. You don't have that concern by churva memela. Then it doesn't matter even if there's an eruv in that chutzner. I'm not worried I'm going to carry over there. I'm not going to leave anything there. That's not a place that I could leave stuff. So maybe I don't have that concern. So maybe he meant that in both directions it's mutter, not aser. Says the Gemara, Ikidarmi, some people say fakert. No. Chiyab, the name of his father said, when you have a churva in the center, both are mutter to carry into the churva. This guy, even the guy that made an eruv. And what's the svara? The same svara we just said a second ago. And if you say no, they should both be asur. Because at the end of the day, Rav agrees that you can't go from the chutzner that made an eruv that way. That's not true. Hasam, that's only in a regular case, given the minter of the batim b'chutzner. Since it's normal for people to take their stuff out of their house and put it in a chutzner. Why? Because nobody steals from a chutzner. You could keep a good eye on it. There we have a concern. Rabbanan said, don't allow it because they made an eruv. You might come to take your stuff from your house to another chutzner. However, in a churva, there's no protection, and therefore they're both mutter. Ad kan. Says the Mishnah, another Mishnah that we are very, very familiar with. Oh, hold on a second. We got to do some Reb David handlers here, Nachamo. Joe Berry, Shalom Aleichem, how are you? Mark Ashkenazi, I'm not going to talk about. Oh, Reb Joel Pollack from Los Angeles is on. I don't see his face. Ari Slasky. Boys, I got to see who we're talking about over here. What's going on? Fishel, I haven't mentioned your name in 2 months. Shalom Aleichem. I see you every day, though. How you doing? And let me see if my guest was here. Where's my chashve guest? No? Anybody see Reb Pesach Waxman? I don't see him. All right. He's on? Okay. He came to visit yesterday. All right. It was a groises chus. He's Hillel and Avi and Eli's principal from Los Angeles. Says the Heilige Mishnah, Gag Godol Samach Lekatan. This Mishnah has a lot of ramifications to halacha l'maisa, as we're going to see on Amud Beis. Many halachas coming out of this Mishnah. And that is that if you have a large roof, a wide roof, going into a smaller, narrower roof. Ga'gadol samach l'katan. Hagadol mutor va'katan asur. Oh. So, major yisoid here. So let's look at this gag for a second. You have the wider roof leading into the smaller roof, or the smaller roof leading into the wider roof. Now, if you look closely at this picture, the roof has mechitzos, let's say, for argument's sake. The larger roof actually has 4 walls. 1, 2, and you could consider this a wall. It's partial. Here you have an opening. Now, back in the day, a couple days ago, Noam asked me, in the middle of share, what about this opening? Is it wider than 10 or narrower than 10? I said it must be narrower than 10, and he said something about a me'iri. In fact, there's a Rashi here that says, the ein hapirtza yoiser me'eser. I looked up the me'iri. I'm not exactly sure if that's what he said, but the me'iri seems to say that in addition to the fact that it's not 10, there's also another halacha that has to be oimid merubetz al parot. Fine. Nothing. Rabbi Rashi says that this gap, and this is how we're going to go. It's not important to the whole sugi, but the gap is less than 10 tefachim, than 10 amas. But what you have here really is 4 walls with an opening. We'll call this opening a Pesach. It's a doorway because it's less than 10. But if you look at the small guy, he only has 3 walls. 1, 2, 3. There's nothing going in this direction. So he's wide open. He's oimed ala par. He's parts into the oimed. So memela, it's usher for him to carry. He doesn't have a eruv. Usher for him to carry in here. This guy is able to carry. This is nothing. This is just a side room to the larger gag. Says the Mishnah, in the same exact halacha, without any big chiddush here, Chatzer G'dayla Shenifritza L'Ktana. We had a whole extensive sugi, and here finally we have the Mishnah. Now, a few important things here. Here's the Kol HaLashon picture. Here's the Gag Gadol, and here's your little gifufe, they call it, right? This small wall, and you can you apply the concept of good asik mechitzta. These walls go up, and they close it off. That's one thing. A very important halacha that I didn't mention, I printed it out back then when we were learning it, but here's the Mishnah so we can talk about it. Tosfos in general holds, because of the issue of nirim mibachutz, we had a whole sugya, nirim mibachutz v'shava mibifnim. Tosfos holds that the smaller roof is perfect. What's the problem? It's nirim mibachutz v'shava mibifnim. Okay, so you can't really see the wall, but it's... Therefore, he learns, and if you look closely, it's a beautiful picture. The wall of the small one extends into the larger one. I don't know if you can see it. Great picture from Kol HaLashon. That's how Tosfos learns the whole sugya. We're not going to go more into it, but just to point it out that the walls extend, because if they stopped here in this corner, like my original picture, then the katan, the small roof, would have its own walls. So yes.
Just to clarify, because last year we were talking about Caleb Sheshachtu B'Soicham, here we're talking about bringing Caleb from your house into that gag, right? From your house to the gag, we're not talking about Caleb Sheshachtu B'Soicham, necessarily.
No, it has to be a kli that's on the gag. You can't bring a kli from your house to the gag. No? That's what you mean? You could? What are you shaking? Yeah.
Look at Rashi. Yes, you could.
Yeah, I looked at which Rashi.
That's why I'm clarifying.
Oh, aval kem sheshafsu bebatim loy, Rashi says. Look at Rashi, 2 lines before the end of Rashi. I actually underlined it. V'divrei hakoli, da'afilu remei lo oma gagim shus achas el kem sheshafsu besoichan, aval kem sheshafsu bebatim loy, yeah, maybe that's what he's saying. Hold on, I have to read the whole thing. What? Right. I have to read it from the beginning. V'divrei hakoli, da'afilu remei lo oma gagim shus achas el kem sheshafsu besoichan, aval kem sheshafsu bebatim loy. During the Chazak Tan Shemuz G'doyla, the Kuli Alma Chatzer Shus Achasein, the Klei Abatim Osra G'doyla Aktana, Uleinian Klei Abatim Osra G'doyla Aktana. How are you learning it?
No, look at the first words. Lasnisin, Hagadol Motor, Lahachnis Lo Klei Habayit Shalamata.
Hagadol Motor, Vein B'nei Kodan Oisrin Olav, the Gavi Godol, Hachbir the Bezal Shal B'Guver. Okay, message. I will also logically bias. Look, I will cut an also logically a bias and go to the I don't know that he means that it came from the house. I don't know. Oh,
It is.
okay. So I don't understand something. The words right before this, because I got you from those words, and now you have to get me from the next words. Okay, fine. I hear. So you're telling me okay. Say it. You're saying that the kelim came from the house. They came from the house to your own gag. Oh yeah, right. So time out. According to Chachamim, you could go from. So you're saying according to Chachamim. According to Chachamim, you can go from your house to your gag. According to Rameir, you cannot go from the house to the gag. Okay, fine. But according to Chachamim, you can't go from gag to gag, and according to Rameir, you could go from gag to gag. Fine. So here, once again, it's not a great picture, but I don't know if you recall this picture, we used this a lot in the beginning of the Masechta. Here's the larger chutzner, here's the smaller chutzner, you can see the gefufe, here's the wall, the little wall. So it's the same concept. The Ktana comes to the Gdoila, rules over the Ktana. And that, by the way, Rabbi Isai will see, this is the key word of the Sugya is rule. The larger chutzner rules over the smaller chutzner. We're going to see in the Gemara. Says the Gemara. Not yet though. Why do I need two cases of a rooftop that's there's a large one, a wider one, and a narrower one, and then the same exact halacha with a chutzner? Says the Gemara, if you recall, we had a machlokes Rav and Shmuel on a rooftop. Do we say that good asik mechitzta, that the walls that are underneath that you can't see, they're not nicker, you're on a flat roof, there's no, what's the word? Whatever the word is, you can't tell that there's a wall, it's nice and flat. According to Shmuel, you say good asik mechitzta, the wall keeps on going up, and according to Rav, you do not. So let's see how that Rav and Shmuel fit into this Mishnah. Le Rav, that there's no good asik mechitzta if you can't tell ktani gag dumi the chatzar. Now the question is, why, when it comes to a rooftop, so let's look at this roof for a second. According to Rav, why don't we say good asik mechitzta? Look, this invisible wall should come here, close in the small guy. Now the small guy has its own form of chitzas. Why not? The answer is, Rav must say that it's the Mishnah is telling us pshat. That's the continuation, that it's like a chatzar. Why is there a second case that teach us the pshat in the first case? Just like a chatzar. You can't tell, you don't see anything in the ground, nothing's popping up out of the ground, it's nice and flat. So through the rooftop, it's nice and flat. And memela, if it's nice and flat, there's no good asik mechitzta. So the small guy is not enclosed. I've got Ma chatzar minkara mechitzta, avgag nami minkara mechitzta. So, just like a chatzar, there's mechitzas on the outside, so to the gag, but there's no mechitza cutting it down the center. Ushmuel gag dumi the chatzar. Ma chatzar the kodar sel rabim, avgag nami the kodar sel. Now Shmuel has another problem. According to Shmuel, this mechitza pops out, so Nachamal, we should have a problem, even if you can't tell that there's a wall here underneath. Look, there's two residents. Obviously, there's a dividing wall, but you don't see it on the top, so it should pop out and do good asik. The answer is, because we're talking about a type of roof that people walk on it. We had this before, Darsi Rabbim, and once people walk on it, they ruin the good asik mechitzta. There's no good asik. We said, if a goat goes through, there's no good achis. If people walk through, there's no good asik. Right? You can't have a wall when people walk there. Now, according to Shmuel, if people don't walk on this roof, they don't go back and forth, it would be a proper mechitza. The cotton and the gadol wouldn't be the same. Says the Gemara. And here comes a major yisoid in all of Shas, and it might even have ramifications to our minyanim, our outdoor minyanim. What does it have to do with the outdoor minyan? Because we do a minyan, we're in a garage, and there's other people that are in a smaller garage. How does that work in terms of a minyan? Could you be mitzaref, not be mitzaref? Yosef Rabba v'Reb Zera v'Rabba Barav Chanan. There's three Amoraim sitting around. The Yosef Abayi Gabayu, right? We had the same story with other Amoraim that Abayi was sitting and overhearing something. The Yasvik Amra, and they said, Shma mino memasnisin. You could see from this Mishnah the Yorig Doilo Biktana, that the taich, the larger gag, the larger chutzner, they live in the smaller one. Says Rashi. If you look at 3 lines from the bottom, the Yorig Doilo, Moishlim Biktana, they rule over the small chutzner, the smaller part of the roof. That's very, very important. That's the key word to the sugya. They rule. It's very interesting. If you're smaller than me, I rule over you. Because I have 4 walls, you only have 3, I rule over you. So basically, I take you into my possession. You come to me. I rule over you, I dominate you. But if my vantage point is from the smaller part of the roof, the smaller part of the chutzner, looking into the larger part, I have nothing there. Keitzad. So how does this apply to halacha l'maisa? Says the Gemara, a number of cases. Gefanim b'gdoilo. So we know the halacha is you can't plant a vineyard together with vegetables. That's called klei hakerem. But the halacha is that if they are distant from each other 4 amas, you could plant. And if you have a wall, a mechitza, you could plant right nearby. 4 amas is all you need. Says the Gemara, tremendous chiddush. Listen what's going on here. A guy planted his vineyard in the large part of the chutzner. It's asur to plant in the small part. It's asur to plant vegetables in the small part. Why? Because the large part rules over the small part. So the small part is considered part of the large part. And now I'm planting vegetables together in my klei hakerem, even though it's more than 4 amas away. Tremendous chiddush. Because now I took my small part and brought it into my big part. It's unbelievable. Also, is Roy Saktana. Vimzara. And what if, and here's even a bigger chiddush. What if I went in and I was a over and I was zayreya, I planted in the small part? Zuroi masurim, all the vegetables are asur. Why? Because I planted in b'isr. Listen to this. Gefanim utarim. But in terms of the gefen, when I planted over here, so I'm standing over here in the small part and my vantage point is, I'm looking out into the large part. I'm closed off. Here's a tremendous chiddush, says Rashi. There's a wall here. Look at this wall. You see this wall? The gifufe make a wall. I have nothing to do with you. On the one hand, I bring the small chutzner into me. Tremendous chiddush. It's awesome. On the other hand, if you plant over here, you can't make an issur to me because I had a wall. I was closed off. We have to understand. When do you jump? It's like dancing in 2 chasanas here. Now we just turned to Daf Amud Beis, sponsored by Alan Listhouse in memory of his mother, Shendel Bat Aaron Hirsch and Bracha, and by the Austin and Tobias grandchildren, Lila Nishmas, Zissel Bas Chaim, the grandmother. Gefanim Biktano. What if the reverse? He planted first the vineyard in the small part. Mutal is Reis Agdoila. Now, when I'm in the large part of the chutzner, my vantage point, these guys, I could do whatever I want over here. I'm closed off. So maybe I could plant in the ktana. Planting is okay. There's no vineyard over here. The vineyard's over here. I'm closed off. Mutal is Reis Agdoila. Now, it's kedai. We have a few minutes here. We're not in a rush. So I think it's kedai to jump into Rashi. I want to show you a beautiful kash and teretz from Rashi. 4 lines down. Great. The Gemara says, I could plant over here. So planting is one thing. But ask Rashi, ukishiyigdulu azroim, what happens when everything grows? And at the end of the day, I have large vegetables over here. and I bring my vineyard into my large chutzner because I rule over the vineyard. So it's as if it came in here, and now I just made my vegetables asur. Why? It's not awesome. This is a big aside. We have to know. What if you go ahead and you plant vegetables? Your friend, you're jealous that your friend has a beautiful, he sells Tepperberg wine, whatever it is. You go and you start planting vegetables in his vineyard. They said the vegetables are asur, but you don't have the right to make somebody else's grapes asur. What's pshat? Canvas beloif asur Torah. The Torah only said canvas and love. Other vegetables are all in the Rabbanan. So listen to this. Here's the point. You planted it beheter. Now there's two things going on. What's Rashi talking about? There's two things. There's the isser to plant. That's one isser. That's not isser, we said, because there's a wall here. But there's another problem. When it grows be'isser. That's a second problem. I forgot what the amount was. 1/200th, whatever. It grows be'isser. So when it grows be'isser, says the Gemara, it just grew be'isser, grew together with the vineyard. No, but since, says Rashi, I had the right to plant it, what happens later on, the isser happens later on, I don't get a knas for that. It's like somebody else planted it next to me. Like it say. Says the Gemara, another case. What about a get? What if the woman is standing in the large yard? Now the halacha is, when a person gives a get to his wife, he has to give it to her in her hand or into her reshus if she's standing there. So she's in the large one, and he put the get in the small one, because the large chutzner rules over the small one, so she grabs halachically the get. But what if the isha b'ktana v'get b'gdoila, she's the main part here, and she's in the small yard, and he deposited the get in the large yard? She from her vantage point, she has nothing to do with that get, because she's standing in the small chutzner. Einam is gareshes. It's not a good get. What about tzibur b'gdoila? If you have 9 people, let's say, in the large yard, so Rashi says it goes by the roiv. Yeah? MMA law, 9 people are in the large yard, because they are in the large one. The small guy comes to only the shliach tzibur who's trying to be mighty them in time of the Gemara. They didn't have Shemona Esrei like us. So you had to listen to every word. And the shliach tzibur was mighty them. You should listen to every word today as well. Very important. Unless you're doing the Mesifta, you're doing Daf Yomi. Sorry. That was just a shtach for 1 or 2 people watching. So the shliach tzibur comes to them because they are in the large one. The small one is open to them. They bring him into them. But what if it's the reverse? From the tzibur's vantage point, they have nothing to do with the large one. And the chazan is in the large one. No good. What if there are 9 people in the large yard? Same halacha, mitztarfin. But if it's the reverse, 9 are in the small one. Because from their vantage point, the large chutzner has nothing to do with them. What if there's feces? You can't say kriyashma. Asur likrois kriyashma b'ktano. So if the tsoya, now this is reverse. We have to understand this. If the tsoya is in the large one, asur likrois kriyashma b'ktano. Tsoya b'ktano. And the Rishonim discussed this. Tsoya b'ktano mutar likrois kriyashma b'gdoila. Provided the rule that we learned in brachas, provided there's no reyach. I think also one other thing that we learned in brachas is that you can't see it. I didn't look into that, but I remember such halachas seeing the tzoy as well. But maybe if there's a mechitza, it might change it. So don't quote me on that. So now don't forget, these 3 Amoraim said halacha, and they were sitting, and Abaya was listening to them. Says Abaya, what you're saying doesn't make so much sense. Why? Imkei motzinu mechitza li'isur. Now, think about it. This mechitza is supposed to separate you. What does mechitza do? Let's look at this gefufe. This gefufe, it should be as if these two chatzeros are separate. But what you did in fact is, you're saying, I rule on you and you come to me. Because I rule on you, you come to me. And you're basing that on the mechitzas that you made. So the mechitzas are working, it's counterintuitive, I love that word. It's the opposite of what it should be. The mechitza is supposed to be separating you, not bringing the small guy into the large guy. In game, it's mechitza leser. Shilmala ye mechitza, without the mechitza, marchik dalam zereya. Look, here. Typical case. If you have a vineyard over here, and you want to plant over here, all you have to do is distance it 4 amos, great. But because you have a little indentation over here, you have gefufe, all of a sudden this ends up on top of this guy and becomes aser. The opposite, indentations should mark off where my territory is. You make it invisible from one indentation to the other. Oh, look, he wanted to finish it off. It's a pass. You're doing the opposite of what's supposed to be here. Milash dasura. So what's interesting is, Taisus points out, each one of the three that were sitting there and said this, asked a question on what Abai just said. The first one is Reb Zera. Tomorrow we're going to see Rava, Rabba, and Rabbi Bar Rav Chanan. The Gemara says Rava, and Taisus Goyer is Rabba. Fine. What do you mean? There is such a concept that a mechitza makes an iser. Where? But now, our halacha. We have a large chotzer that goes, the wider chotzer that goes into the narrow chotzer. So listen to this. Ma'amesh, beautiful drawing here. Here's the large chotzer. Same pictures that we had before. The only difference is I made a blue and red line, so you could see it clearly. What if? So if you have this red line, just the red line, so the large one goes into the small one comes into the large one. Says the Gemara, says Abaya, but guess what? Vilu hishvas gifufea gdoila nami asura. What if you took a blue, you created a new wall, blue. You see this blue wall here? So now you just got rid of this bump. Now there's no more gifufim on both sides. I just did blue because look, if you don't do blue, it looks a little confusing over here. Your original wall was red. It went like that. You added the blue part. Now you just made the wall very straight. What just happened? This just became usher. Everything became usher. They're open to each other. Chatzah to chatzah. Without an eruv. It's makam usher. Amalei, so he tells him beautifully. So what do you see? So he said, I give you you tell me, where do you see that a mechitza makes an isser? Here. Until now, the G'dayla was mutter, I was allowed to carry everywhere into the Ketana, and now the G'dayla is also asr. So you see, mechitza made it worse. He says, Abaya beautifully. You didn't build a blue wall. You know what you just did? You knocked down the red wall. You had a red wall that made everything mutter. And by you adding a blue wall, you got rid of the red. So it's not pshat that you have a wall and the wall makes it isser. What you did with the blue wall was to get rid of the red wall. That's something else. I didn't say that. I said typically a mechitza makes a heter, not an isser. You're giving me an example where your mechitza got rid of a mechitza of heter and made a new isser. That's something else completely. And that I agree with you that it will make it isser. Boisai, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Amen. Shkeach, Beisai, Shkeach.
sending any subliminal messages with the red wall, blue wall. You're not like saying you're not taking sides here.
My red and blue was from day one. I love it. It's what do you call it? It's not just red and blue. It's neon red. It's neon blue. It's a whole. No, I don't. Huh?
Nicely done, that picture.
Shkoyach, shkoyach. Where are you going? What's going on here?
Me, I'm going to Devon. Yeah,
It's early by you.
Great day, everybody. Great day.
Wonderful day, Rabbi Isai. What do you say? Some people what?
Go out of the house to Devon.
No, I get to look out my window. And officially.
I don't know. These porch minyanim are very very iffy according to today's Gemara. This is a whole minyan together, not together. Yeah, kitzer. B'shas chak, b'shas chak.
You have no way out of the minion downstairs, do you? It's not porches, don't worry.
No, for me, I'm in a porch. I'm upstairs by a window.
No, you for sure could join in.
Right, if they have a minyan together, but they don't really have. Yeah, I guess they have.
100%, why not?
Rabbi Pessin, they can't unmute. Rabbi Pessin said on Shabbos that even on Purim they can't answer.
Rabbi Peasant said what?
On Shabbos, Yomi asked him if it's true that you can answer on the Yotzi by answering Kedusha and everything on Zoom. He says if the main place has a minion, then you can answer. You can ask him yourself, but.
On Zoom, apitam. But what about Shabbos on Zoom? Is that okay also?
Yeah, it's mutter.
For you, it's for sure mutter.
I read something. According to his photos, you can use Zoom for your FaceTime.
Oy vey, Zmi.